Before we begin, please leave a comment, share your thoughts and let us know your lessons learned in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. In a dusty corner of a small Nigerian town, far away from the luxuries of life, there lived a young woman named Hannah. Unlike many of her peers who dreamed of escaping the confines of their humble circumstances, Hannah had a different vision, a vision where grit and determination would serve as her passport to a brighter future. In a place where dreams were often shelved in exchange for survival, Hannah's spirit shone through like a beacon of hope. Her life had never been one of ease. The shoes she wore were worn out. The patches on her uniform were an everyday reminder of the struggles she had faced. Yet her spirit remained unbroken. Hannah was a star in her school, not because of her wealth or connections, but because of her unwavering drive to succeed. Her teachers, though they were only able to see the surface, could sense her potential. They often whispered behind her back that she was destined for greatness. But it was hard to imagine such a future with the small, cracked house she came from. While others waited for miracles or the hand of fate to guide them out of their situation, Hannah decided to take matters into her own hands. After finishing secondary school, where the future seemed bleak for many, she picked up a comb and a pair of scissors, tools she had learned to master with her hands, and set up shop beneath the shade of a mango tree. Her chair was borrowed, and the space she worked in was far from glamorous. But she had something far more valuable than material wealth. She had ambition, talent, and a relentless will to succeed. In those quiet moments beneath the tree, as she braided the hair of neighbors and passers-by, Hannah wasn't just offering a service, she was creating art. Every strand of hair she twisted, every knot she tied, reflected a small part of herself, the girl who had once dreamed of more than survival, and the woman who was slowly but surely carving her path to greatness. Word spread quickly in the town about the young girl who braided with a grace and skill that seemed to surpass the boundaries of her small, humble beginnings. Her clients didn't just come for the beauty of her braids, they came for the kindness in her smile, for the stories she shared while working, for the way she made them feel like they mattered. They returned time and again, not just for the quality of the work, but for the warmth of her presence. They could see something in her that many overlooked, the spark of a future that was bigger than their small town could offer. Hannah lived with her parents and younger siblings in a house that smelled of boiled corn and fresh vegetables. It wasn't much, but it was filled with love, a kind of love that was tangible in the way her mother sold vegetables at the market and in the way her father, a stern but hard-working welder, kept the family afloat despite the odds. Life wasn't easy, and the town didn't make it any easier. But Hannah had something they didn't, an unwavering belief in herself and her ability to create a future where she didn't have to settle for the limitations of her surroundings. Her mother would often pray for her, and Hannah would smile, assuring her that she would be all right. But Hannah's father, ever the skeptic, would cross his arms and silently watch. "What's the point of all this?" he would grumble, though he never stopped supporting her in his own way. He couldn't understand why she was so determined, why she believed she could make a life for herself from the very hands that had been calloused by years of hard work. But Hannah was undeterred. She knew that this was the beginning, that with each braid, each haircut, she was taking one step closer to the future she wanted. Then, one fateful afternoon, everything changed. It was a typical day for Hannah: hot sun, the scent of fresh mangoes and the constant hum of the market behind her. She was braiding the hair of a woman who had visited her before. Madame Vic, a woman known not just for her wealth but for her elegance and class. She was different from the usual clients, and today was no different. But as Hannah worked, carefully weaving each braid with the precision of a seasoned artist, she felt something in the air change. Madame Vic wasn't just another customer today. She was about to change Hannah's life forever. "Your work is exceptional," Madame Vic said, her voice soft but filled with admiration. She brushed her newly styled hair, inspecting it as she spoke. "Have you ever thought about working abroad?" Hannah paused, the comb still in her hands. "Abroad?" She blinked in confusion, unsure if she had heard the words correctly. "Abroad, Ma? I want to sponsor you," Madame Vic continued, her eyes twinkling with kindness. "I have a friend in the US who owns a top salon. I can get you a job there. You'll earn far more than you ever will here. A life beyond what you can even imagine." For a moment, time stood still. Hannah's heart raced, and the world around her seemed to blur. This wasn't just an opportunity, it was a lifeline. A chance to escape a life she had never chosen and step into a world where anything was possible. Her mouth felt dry as she whispered, "Are you serious?" Madam Vic's smile widened. "I don't joke about opportunity. Hannah, this is real." Tears welled in Hannah's eyes. She had worked so hard, never expecting anything beyond the day-to-day. But here, right in front of her, was the future she had always dreamed of. She couldn't believe it. "Thank you, Ma," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "God bless you. I would love that. I really would." As she walked home that evening, barely able to contain the excitement surging through her veins, she could hardly believe what had just happened. She had just been offered a chance to leave everything behind and start a new life, a life she had only ever imagined. Her mother wept with joy as she listened to the news, her gratitude palpable in every word. But her father, ever the cynic, raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure she's not a scammer? Or worse, a ritualist?" "No, Daddy," Hannah said, shaking her head. "I've known her for years. She's honest. She's helped me get many customers." Her father grunted, unconvinced, but something had already sparked in Hannah's heart, a new hope. A burning desire to seize the chance she had been given. It wasn't going to be easy, and there would be fear. But there was also something else, the light of possibility. And she was ready to walk towards it, no matter where it took her. Hannah's life had never been a tale of privilege. It had been a series of small victories, carved from hard work and a belief that one day, the world would open its doors to her. But she had never imagined that it would happen like this. A simple afternoon beneath a mango tree had altered the course of her destiny. As she lay in bed that night, her heart still raced with excitement, her mind running wild with the possibilities that lay ahead. Madam Vic's offer wasn't just a chance for a better life, it was a key to an entirely different world. Hannah had spent her whole life in a small, dusty town, where dreams were often discarded like old shoes. The thought of going abroad, of stepping into a world where anything was possible, was intoxicating. But as she lay there, staring at the ceiling of her small room, doubts began to creep in. What if this was too good to be true? What if Madam Vic had ulterior motives? Could she really trust this stranger? But then, she remembered her own mother's words, whispered in quiet moments of desperation. "God has a plan for you, my daughter. If you trust him, nothing can stop you." Hannah closed her eyes, her mother's words echoing in her mind. She had always believed that the key to success lay in hard work, in giving everything to the task at hand, and trusting that the universe would align when the time was right. The time was now. She had no choice but to believe. The days after Madam Vic's promise were a blur of paperwork, photos, and signatures. Hannah had never left Nigeria, let alone traveled overseas. She didn't even have a passport. But Madam Vic took care of everything. It was as if the universe had conspired to make this moment possible. Soon, everything was in place, the visa, the plane tickets, the job in the salon. It all felt like a dream. As the day of departure neared, the small town buzzed with gossip. Some people wished her well, saying she was lucky, while others whispered dark predictions about the wealthy women who sometimes took advantage of people like Hannah. But none of that mattered to her. She had made up her mind. There was a fire in her heart, a belief that this was her chance to escape the life she had known. And she wasn't going to let fear or doubt stand in her way. Hannah's parents were proud of her, but her father remained skeptical. He didn't trust easily, especially when it came to people who came from outside their small, tight-knit community. When Madam Vic insisted on meeting Hannah's family before she left, her father gave her a long, hard look. It was as if he was weighing her worth, deciding whether to give his blessing or withhold it. But when Madam Vic spoke, her words were calm and reassuring. "I saw how hard-working your daughter is," she said to Hannah's parents, her tone gentle but firm. "I want to help her succeed. She'll live well. I've arranged a job for her with a trusted friend who owns a salon in the US. She'll be safe. She'll thrive." Hannah's father remained silent, arms crossed over his chest, his expression unreadable. But after what felt like an eternity, he nodded. Ever the pragmatist, it wasn't approval, but it wasn't rejection either. For the first time, Hannah realized just how deeply her father cared for her. His silence spoke volumes, and though he may not have understood her dreams, he was willing to let her chase them. The day of Hannah's departure arrived, and it felt as though the world itself was holding its breath. The air was thick with emotion. Her mother clung to her as if she would never let go. Tears streaming down her face. Her younger siblings cried too. Too young to understand the gravity of the situation, yet still feeling the loss of the sister who had always been there for them. Her father stood back, his face a mask of emotion he couldn't express. But as Hannah turned to board the bus that would take her to the airport, he called out to her, his voice rough, "Just once, don't forget who you are." Those words were seared into her heart as the bus pulled away. Hannah didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing was clear: she was leaving behind the person she had always been, and stepping into a world of uncertainty, possibility, and fear. The journey to the airport was long, filled with strange new feelings, fear, excitement, and a nagging sense of not knowing what awaited her. As the plane ascended into the sky, Hannah couldn't help but feel the weight of it all. What if she failed? What if she wasn't enough? What if the life she had built in Nigeria, the family she had worked so hard to support, was all a dream that would soon fade away? Her mind raced with questions as the airplane hummed like a distant storm. Hours later, she landed in the United States, and the sight of the skyline greeted her like a dream written in silver. This wasn't the dusty town she had left behind. This was a place where dreams were made, where possibilities stretched to the horizon. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. At the airport, a stern but kind woman named Miss Lana awaited her. "You'll be working in my salon starting tomorrow," Miss Lana said, her voice professional but warm. "We take our work seriously here. Can you handle that?" Hannah nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. "Yes, Ma," she said, though her voice barely registered above a whisper. Miss Lana led her to the salon, a place where lights flickered off mirrors and the air buzzed with the energy of women from all walks of life, all hoping for the perfect hairstyle. The salon was more than just a business, it was a world. A place where customers came to escape their own lives for a moment. And Hannah was now a part of it. The work was hard, but Hannah thrived in it. She worked like her life depended on it, because it did. She learned quickly, smiled often, and remained humble despite the hustle and bustle of her new environment. Miss Lana was impressed with her work ethic. And soon, Hannah found herself earning not just money, but respect. Every month, she sent money home. She paid her brother's school fees, helped her mother rebuild the market stall that had burned down in a fire, and sent her father small gifts. Despite the distance, despite the new life she was building, she never allowed her family to feel abandoned. But the sacrifices were immense. Hannah's room was small, her meals simple, but her heart was full. She missed her family, missed the warmth of her home, but she knew that she was doing what she needed to do. She had a dream, and she was determined to see it through. Hannah's journey wasn't just one of survival, it was one of reinvention. In a world that seemed determined to hold her back, she had found a way to rise above. With each month, she grew more confident, more capable, more certain that this new life was meant for her. But even as she built a future for herself, she never forgot where she came from. Every braid she wove, every client she served, was a tribute to the town that had shaped her, and to the family that had given her the foundation to succeed. But even as she soared, Hannah knew there were risks that lay in the future she was building. And in the people she trusted, there was always a danger of losing herself in the process. The promise of success was tempting, but it wasn't without its dark sides. The story of Hannah's rise was far from over. The challenges she had yet to face would test not just her strength, but her heart. As she settled into her new life, she would soon realize that the price of success wasn't just money, it was everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and family. And the biggest test of all was yet to come. The years had passed quickly, each one layering Hannah with more experience, more wisdom, and more success than she had ever thought possible. The girl who once braided hair beneath a mango tree in a small Nigerian town had become a force to be reckoned with in the United States. Her salon flourished in ways she had never imagined, her reputation growing with every strand of hair she styled. Every client she served, she had become a name in the industry. A woman who had built an empire with her own two hands. No shortcuts, no easy routes. She was proud of what she had achieved. But deep down, she knew there was still something missing. Hannah's life had always been about giving to her family, giving to her community, giving to the people who had once been a part of her journey. And though she had achieved much, There was an emptiness inside her that nothing seemed to fill. Her heart had been worn raw by the sacrifices she had made. The years spent building a future while her past lingered, haunting her at every turn. The turning point came one day, after years of working tirelessly, when Hannah received a message from someone who had once been close to her, John. Their relationship had been built on love, or so it seemed, a bond forged through time and promises of a future together. When they had met online, he had seemed perfect, charming, caring, and devoted to the idea of building a life with her. But it was only after she had sent him money, lots of money, that doubts began to creep in. First, it was for land. Then, it was for a house. Then, for a business venture. And with each request, her love for him grew. But so did her suspicion. John had promised her the world. He spoke of their future, of the house they would build, of the life they would share. He painted a picture of success and happiness, a future where they would be together, secure in their love and wealth. But as the years passed, something didn't add up. Her bank account grew smaller while his stories grew grander. And as Hannah worked harder than ever to make a name for herself, John became more distant, more demanding, more reliant on her financial support. It wasn't until the day she made the decision to return to Nigeria that the truth began to unravel. For 10 years, she had worked to create a life that she could be proud of. A life that would allow her to return home one day and show her family the fruits of her labor. But when she finally booked her flight, she wasn't just returning to reunite with the people she loved, she was returning to uncover the truth. To see with her own eyes whether John's promises had been real or just another lie in a string of deceptions. The plane touched down, and as it did, so did Hannah's hope for the future. She had no idea what awaited her, but her heart raced with anticipation, mixed with a deep sense of dread. What if she had been wrong about everything? What if the man she had trusted had betrayed her in ways she couldn't even begin to imagine? But despite the fear in her chest, Hannah was resolute. She had come this far, and she wasn't going to turn back now. She took a cab straight from the airport to the house John had promised her. The white gate stood before her, gleaming like a symbol of the life she had been promised. She had pictured this moment 1,000 times, walking up to the house they were supposed to share, stepping into a life where everything was finally right. But when she knocked on the door, it wasn't John who answered. It was a woman, a pregnant woman, who stood there, barefoot, her hand resting gently on her belly. "Who is she, John?" the woman asked, her eyes narrowing as she looked at Hannah. Hannah's heart stopped. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as she looked at John, standing frozen in the doorway. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice cracking. "Who is she?" John stammered, sweat gleaming on his forehead, his eyes darting between Hannah and the woman. I can explain," he said, his voice faltering. But before he could say another word, the woman stepped back, whispering something under her breath. Hannah didn't wait for him to finish his excuses. The truth was clear as day. The man she had trusted, the man she had poured her heart and soul into, had lied to her. He had promised her a future, a life, a home, and instead, he had built a web of deceit that had caught her in its threads. Tears filled Hannah's eyes as she turned away, her chest heavy with heartbreak. The years of sacrifice, the money she had sent, the love she had given, none of it had mattered. The man she had trusted had betrayed her in the worst possible way. She caught a cab and checked into the nearest hotel, slamming the door behind her as she collapsed onto the bed, her body shaking with the weight of it all. But in that moment of darkness, something inside her shifted. She had spent so many years building a life for others. But now, it was time to rebuild for herself. She would no longer be the woman who was defined by what she could give. She would be the woman who discovered who truly loved her, not for her money, not for her success, but for who she was. Over the next few days, the weight of the betrayal continued to press down on her. Her thoughts were a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and pain. How could John have done this to her? How could she have been so blind? But in the midst of it all, she realized something crucial. This wasn't just about John. This was about her. This was about learning to let go of the people who had used her and to find the ones who would love her for who she truly was. It wasn't long before she began to test the waters. She wanted to see who would stand by her now that she had nothing to offer. She reached out to her family, to her friends, and to the people who had once been a part of her life. But the truth, as it always does, came out. The ones who had only ever loved her for what she could provide turned their backs on her when she had nothing left. Her father, once so proud of her, now saw her as a burden. Her brothers, who had always been so dependent on her, whispered behind closed doors about how she had failed them. The only one who remained steadfast was her mother, who, despite the coldness of the situation, continued to offer her love and support. And then, one evening, something miraculous happened. Just when Hannah thought she had lost everything, she ran into Agnes, the girl she had once helped with university fees. Agnes had been nothing more than a fleeting memory, someone she had helped out of kindness. But now, standing before her, Agnes was the one offering her shelter, offering her warmth, and offering her hope when the world had shown her nothing but betrayal. Agnes hugged her tightly, her tears mingling with Hannah's as they stood on the street. "I can't believe it's really you," Agnes whispered. "You saved my life, Hannah. And now, I'm here to help you. You don't have to carry this burden alone." Hannah broke down in Agnes's arms, the weight of her journey crashing over her. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel the comfort of another person's love, not for what she could do, but for who she was. In the weeks that followed, Hannah began to rebuild her life, not through the people who had used her, but through the people who loved her for who she truly was. She and Agnes worked together, opening a small salon, not for the fame or the fortune, but for the fulfillment of building something real, something grounded in mutual respect and love. Agnes, too, was a woman of strength, of resilience. And together, they created a bond that would last a lifetime. And then came the moment that would change everything. Hannah, with a heart full of new clarity, made her way back to the house John had once promised her. She stood before the white gate, not with anger in her heart, but with resolve. She had lost the man who had betrayed her, but she had gained something far more precious, herself. She handed Agnes the deed to the house that had once symbolized her greatest betrayal. "This house is yours now," she said softly, her voice steady. "You loved me with nothing. And now, I want to give you everything." Agnes's eyes widened in disbelief. "But why?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Because you gave me love when I had nothing left," Hannah replied, "and that's worth more than anything I could ever give." As they stood in the shadow of the house that had once been a symbol of heartbreak, Hannah realized that she had found something greater than wealth or success. She had found the power of unconditional love, the strength to rise again, and the peace that comes from knowing that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find out what truly matters. The future was theirs to build together. Thank you so much for following Hannah's journey from struggle to success. From heartbreak to redemption, your support means the world to us. And we're truly grateful that you've taken the time to experience her story with us. If you found inspiration in her resilience, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more stories that touch the heart. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and share how Hannah's journey impacted you. Your feedback keeps us going, and we can't wait to bring you more powerful tales of hope and transformation. Thank you once again for watching.